Good morning, world. I am Judy, your web based therapist, making therapy accessible and convenient for our clients in Florida and New York, and of course, sharing information worldwide. Today, I want to talk about 5 tips for working or communicating with your child with ADHD or ADD. But of course, while I'm focusing on children, these tips can be used for any person with ADHD. Depending on your relationship with that person, you can adjust the tips to make sense for your situation. Um, but before we get into that, I want to take a quick moment and say if you are subscribed, thank you so much for being a part of our world. And if you are not yet subscribed, please click the link below or the subscribe button below so that you can subscribe and become part of our world. And of course, if you'd like to purchase 1 or 3 of my books, there's also a link below that will take you to a website where you can purchase 1 or 3 of my books. Okay, let's get back to work. The first thing you want to do is get to eye level and make eye contact. A person or a child with ADHD has so many different cylinders firing, so much stuff going on, they're processing, that they're experiencing, that they have to manage and deal with. When you want their attention, it's important that you get to that level of making that contact, of getting to eye level with them, because once you're at eye level and you're engaging them, then you know that yes, they are listening to you. Because if you're just somewhere in the background yelling and screaming, you may think that you're talking to them, but there is so much going on inside their little brain that they may not even be hearing you, or maybe they're hearing you, but not having time to process what you're saying because there's so much else going on. Take the time and get to eye level. If this is your child, I don't want to say that get in their face, but get into a personal space and have a conversation where you're looking at them in the face, you're looking at them in the eyes, and they can see you and you can see them, and that way you know that yes, they are aware that you are having a conversation with them. 2, use your calm indoor voice. It can be so difficult to deal with children or to work with children with ADHD because you can say the same thing 37 times and they seem to hear you but never follow through because it maybe they did hear but it didn't get processed. So sometimes parents and adults can get so frustrated and then we start yelling and and screaming the child's name. When you start screaming, what you do is activate that startled response, which means that you cause yet another emotion to start happening. You're having now more excitement, more things for them to process. Use your calm indoor voice. Don't shout, don't scream, because shouting and screaming is just making the situation worse. They're not hearing you because now they're in the moment of adding one more thing or 2 more levels of things to process in addition to everything else they were already going through or they were already experiencing. So take the time and speak to them softly, calmly. Use your indoor voice. 3, be brief and direct. Yes, I know. Coming from the most one of the most longest winded person you've probably heard. And I'm saying, yes, be brief and direct. A lot of times, especially if you've already said something 3 or 4 times or 5 times, you don't start your instruction with, hey, such and such, Johnny, can you please do this? You start with, Johnny, I already told you. How many times do I tell you? You give them a whole dissertation on what has not been done before you finally get to what you need done. Just be direct. Hey, I need you to pick up your clothes. Instead of saying, how many times do I need to ask you to pick up your clothes? Pick up your clothes. Direct, brief. Because you know you only have so much attention of theirs that you will get. So when you finally do have their attention, if you finally have their attention, use it appropriately. Don't waste the attention um, reminding them of how many times you've told them things. Go clear, direct, and brief. 4, engage them visually and physically. If this is your child, this is one of those opportunities where you can go and take the child's hand. Holding the child's hand while talking to them is another way of getting them to connect with you. Or maybe a hand on the arm. Again, it depends on your relationship with that child, So maybe it's a touch, maybe it's a holding up the hand, whatever it is. And if you're teaching them or asking them to do something, showing them a visual, explain instead of just explaining something, um map it out, I guess, draw it out, sign it out. Just give them a visual, show them an example as opposed to just trying to explain something to them. Give them something to see because some people process visually better than they process auditorily. So make sure that you are engage them in at least two different ways. And now that means that two of the things that they are processing have to do with what you're asking, thus increasing your chances of actually getting the results you're looking for. 5, be patient and control your frustration. Yes, it's difficult when you've told a child or a person to do something 3 times or 5 times and they haven't done it. But you have to remember that people with ADHD process things differently. And especially if you have not been attentive or been more deliberate about saying and sharing or giving instructions in the way that they can receive it, sometimes it is very frustrating. Make sure that you're patient. Getting frustrated, getting annoyed, losing control does not help the situation. You starting and screaming and shouting your son's name does not make your son hear you better. It just puts your son in a different space. And I mentioned before how a lot of times people with ADHD tend to, they're empaths. They tend to take in other people's emotions. If they're thinking that or feeling that they hurt you or they did something, they disappointed you. Now there's a whole new level of experience that they have to deal with because now, in addition to everything else that was going on, they're feeling hurt, they're feeling sad, they're feeling all sorts of emotions about having hurt you. When you're showing frustration, when you're losing control or you're showing anger, they're taking that in. And that is actually adding another level, another barrier to your being able to get what you were looking for. So do your best to control your frustration or avoid being frustrated. Be patient with them. Work with them and get to learn how they take information best so that you're sharing or making your request in the way that they're going to receive it. So just make sure that, please, as much as you can, control your frustration or avoid frustration. Quick recap. 1, get to eye level and make eye contact. It's a lot. When you make eye contact with a person, then you know that they're paying attention to you. You know that they can hear you. And of course, they're aware that you're having a conversation with them. 2, use your calm indoor voice because yelling, screaming just make the situation worse. You're activating that startled response. You're not helping the person hear you better. You're just giving them something else to worry about. 3, be brief and direct. Tell the person exactly what you need from them, what it is, when you need it, exactly what you need them to do. They don't need to know how many times you've already asked them. Just get to your point, like I need to do. 4, engage them visually and or physically. If you have an example that you can show, if you have something, if you have a visual that they can see, or sometimes if it's a child, your child, holding their hand, a simple touch, a way that has them connecting with you on another level than if you just the words. And finally, be patient, control your frustration. It takes time. Sometimes it takes time for them to process. Sometimes it takes time for them to get to doing what you need them to do. Be patient. Avoid that moment or that feeling of frustration and displaying that frustration to them because that's just one more thing that's going to get in their way or in the way of their being able to deliver whatever it is that you're asking for. As always, if you or someone you know happens to be going through something that's more than you can handle, please remember that there are professionals like myself who are available, able, and willing to help, and are even providing remote services to assist with whatever you may have going on. So please figure out who those people are in your community so that if you need them, you can reach out and get the help that you need. And that is all we have for today. Good morning, world. Have an awesome day.